Hello everybody, Cooper here, and welcome back to another episode of my NBA 2K25 MyNBA franchise here. With me, it's with all the teams. I'm in the habit of saying it's with the Los Angeles Lakers, but it's with all the teams. If you haven't watched part 1 of episode 1, I suppose, the description is below with a playlist for your benefit. In that in that initial video, which is about an hour long, so if you don't want to watch it, I'll give a quick recap. Basically, we are starting from scratch in the 2024 off-season. We've made a few changes, implemented a few rules, put in some expansion teams. We've done the expansion draft. We've done the NBA draft. We are now going to do the second half of the off-season in this video. If that intrigues you, keep watching. If you feel like you want to catch up on what has happened previously, previous video. Anyway, enough of that. Let's keep going. Now, in the last video, we did the NBA draft, as I said, and I've done a couple of things off camera, mainly being the rookie signings, team and player options, and the qualifying offers. I figured it would take quite a while for me to go through and then untick the rookies I wanted to sign and etc. with the team options. So I'm going to quickly go over the rookie signings that I have made. For example, here with the Philadelphia 76ers, who drafted Zach Edey. We've let go of Larry Griffin and Shane Webb III, who were our second round picks. We have not signed them to contracts, but we have signed Zach Edey. So I'm just going to go across while I talk for a little while with every single team and basically explain what has happened in between the last episode and now. So while I do this, we have the team options here, or I did the team options and player options. Obviously, the player options you don't have a choice over, but you do with the team options. Obviously, each team gets to go in and pick, their players that they want to keep for the upcoming season, and then there's ones that they want to get rid of. Now, I went and did this for all of the teams, for all the players that I thought were necessary, but it kind of didn't work. So some players that I accepted the team offers for, such as free agents like Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and a lot of that draft class, they were all free agents, and even though they weren't eligible to be free agents. So we were in a situation where there was a lot of free agents. So what I have done with the initial period of free agency, as I will show you here, that for example, I'm trying to find a good example here. So as you can see here, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, Wiggins, and Isaiah Joe, I accepted all of their team options, but their options did not apply to the contract and they became free agents. So what I have done, and I've done this for all of the players that are in this situation, is I have gone using the moratorium period and re-signed them to contracts based on what they would be if they were free agents in X year's time. So if they're free agents next year, I would give them whatever deal I thought they would be worth. Some deals are longer than others, some other deals are shorter. So I'm going to go down to the bottom here, we'll cover them as per. So Isaiah Mobley, we've given him a 1-year deal because he's really just the minimum guy. I believe it's even a 2-way deal. So I won't go over every single player, but like Max Christie re-signed as he did in real life with the Lakers. I should say, this isn't going to be a particularly close to real life kind of series because that's why we have real life. But I'm going to try and sort of keep some parallels between, this universe and the real life universe. I'm also going to try and keep it semi-realistic while, not being absolutely super strict with the series as well, if you weren't already aware. Anyway, I'm getting away from myself here. Paolo Banchero signed a 5-year extension. Chet Holmgren signed a 3-year, as did Jabari Smith. Keegan Murray signed a 5-year deal. Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin, Shaden Sharp all signed 5-year deals. Dyson Daniels signed a 3-year deal. Jeremy Sohan, 3 years. J-Dub, Jalen Duren, and as so on and so forth with all these other guys. Now, I will mention that some of these players will be signed and traded. I just obviously haven't done the trades yet. So we are going to do a handful of trades before the start of free agency because not everybody's team is in a position to enter free agency. A lot of the expansion teams will have a look at their rosters now, actually what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at everybody's roster as things currently stand. So this is obviously the post-draft rosters. This will change, obviously, as the video goes on. So the 76ers currently only have 2 players on their roster. The Bucks have quite a few players. This will change. So players like, you know, they obviously traded away Giannis in the previous video. So players like Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis Jr. will be looking to move on to championship contenders. I have no idea what I'm going to do with Damian Lillard. That will be something that I cross at a later date. But as you can see here, we loaded up on guys on, you know, sort of tradable contracts and a lot of young talent that, you know, hopefully we can use in the future for the Bucks. The Bulls traded away Zach LaVine. Actually, no, we haven't traded away Zach LaVine. I thought we did, but apparently we didn't. So they're, you know, we're fully embracing the rebuild here, even though we could bring back DeMar DeRozan as we do have his bird rights, but I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and fully go with the rebuild here. So Vucevic, LaVine, probably going to find new homes, probably even Caruso as well. Cavs, I don't think we'll do a great deal. We may do a few minor deals, but they're sort of core 4 guys. I dare say they're going to stay put. Bronny James, we did draft him at the initial period. I think it was the 20th overall pick. Now, I will line him up with his dad, just as a spoiler. So LeBron obviously is a free agent. So depending on where LeBron ends up, Bronny will follow. But currently he is with the Cavs, because I thought it'd be, you know, kind of nice that they got drafted by the same team. Boston, they already made a few moves at the draft. They picked up Denny Avdija and Tristan Vukovic from the Wizards, and then they picked up Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski in the draft. They've got a few guys that are free agents, so it's all about bringing those guys back and signing guys to contract extensions. Clippers traded away Kawhi Leonard. Paul George and James Harden are currently free agents. I dare say they will be signed and traded if they don't find other, you know, free agent destinations. Grizzlies, I think we'll do a little bit of business here with the Grizzlies. Not entirely sure what at this stage, but I don't think we're going to go out and get a big name. Atlanta traded away Trae Young. They're fully embracing the rebuild after making the conference finals earlier in the 2020s, but have not been able to replicate that success. So they've made a few deals. I dare say we'll make a few more here. Miami, they've traded away Jimmy. They've traded away Tyler Hero. They've traded away Bam Adebayo. So again, fully embracing the rebuild. Just going to load up on assets, which they've mainly done so far. They're just going to keep on doing that throughout free agency. Charlotte, they're building towards the playoffs. They did a really good job in the draft, picking up Donovan Clingan with the 9th overall pick. He's just a bit of insurance for Mark Williams. Nick Richards will probably be on the move, I dare say, because, you know, I like to give Donovan Clingan those minutes, and I think Nick Richards will be better off somewhere else. But we're just going to be building around, you know, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Donovan Clingan at this stage. Utah loaded up on a ton of picks, traded away Lauri Markkanen. I think we're going to load up on more picks and young talent here. The Kings picked up DeAndre Hunter and Clint Capella in a trade. I think it was a 3-teamer with the Hawks, and I can't remember what the other team was, but they've got a few guys that are free agents. I don't know how much cap room they have now that we've brought in Capella and Hunter, but obviously they've got a full roster to fill out with I don't know how much money. So that would be very interesting for them. The Knicks picked up DeAndre Ayton via the Phoenix Suns in the draft. They've also got Mitch Robinson and a Julius Randle trade, which could potentially happen. And they've got all their picks to play with, as of course the Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns trades have not happened. So I think the Knicks are bound to do something explosive. It's just a matter of what. The Lakers' biggest priority, bring back LeBron James and hopefully somebody else in the process. They drafted Dalton Knecht like they did in real life, and basically everybody else is a free agent. And if they don't, hopefully they can get something for Anthony Davis, because I don't think he'll want to stick around if LeBron doesn't sign. The Orlando Magic actually did something really interesting. They picked up Chris Middleton in the Giannis trade. It was a 3-teamer between the team that Giannis plays for. If you didn't watch the last video, I won't say it just yet, and the Milwaukee Bucks. So Chris Middleton, I don't know what the deal is, whether or not, I don't think he's going to be like a replacement for Franz Wagner or anything like that. But whether or not he starts over Franz, because obviously Banchero is not a center, so we can't really start him at center. Be interesting to see what happens, and I think there might be a trade or two here to be done with the Magic. Dallas, there are moves here for Dallas. We don't have any pick control, I don't think, but they did pick up Jeremy Grant in a trade with the Blazers, so that is something, but they've got a few other moves that need to be made. This is basically the highlight of the last video. The Brooklyn Nets picked up Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have some more moves to be made. They've still got a couple of draft picks left. I don't know how much that will be able to get them with the remaining sort of players and assets that they have, but remains to be seen. They've still got a full roster to play out, and they've got a young stud in Cam Thomas, who is probably due for a contract extension as well. The Nuggets are sort of on their last wheels as a championship contender. There could be a deal to be done, but they have no pick control, so it might be get worse to get better sort of situation to get the last out of the really good years of Nikola Jokic. Indiana didn't make a great deal of moves. They don't have a great deal of pick control at this stage. Their main free agent is Pascal Siakam. It's all going to be about bringing him back. And I think just filling out the rest of the roster, I doubt we'll get too much fun out of the Indiana Pacers. The Pelicans got really busy in the draft. They picked up Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat. Costs them, I think, 3 first-round picks, all of which are the Bucks picks. So Miami, if the Bucks are really bad for a long time, the Miami Heat are going to be drawing in a lot of draft picks via that trade. But I like the fit of Zion, Adebayo, Ingram. McCollum could potentially be moved on, probably not this offseason, potentially next. But they've re-signed Dyson Daniels. He might be a sign and trade candidate, depending on, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. The Pistons got very active in the draft. They had the 3rd overall pick, decided to trade it to OKC for Josh Giddey and the 13th overall pick, in which they actually picked up Ron Holland, who was their pick in real life. But there are some moves to be had here. Josh Giddey provides a bit of a desperate need of playmaking, but doesn't provide a lot in terms of defense. So that'll probably be their thing to do, is bring in defense and hopefully fill out the rest of the roster and get some draft picks as well. The Raptors just build around Scotty Barnes. I don't know why we've got a two-way guy here. I did not want him there, but they drafted Ryan Dunn. Grady Dick is bound to take a step up towards, not quite superstardom, but as a solid starter, I think, for next season. They've obviously got RJ Barrett and a few other free agents to build around. The Rockets were one of the more interesting teams, and they've probably got another move to make as well. They picked up Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks. They also picked up Mikal Bridges from the Nets. They sent all those Nets picks back to Brooklyn, and that was able to facilitate the Giannis and Embiid trades. Alperen Şengün bound to take another step towards superstardom. They've also got Jalen Green and Amen Thompson, who are going to be going backwards and forwards at the shooting guard spot. They've got a bit of a logjam at power forward. They do have, obviously, Ben Simmons, who we picked up via Brooklyn, Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason, who are all deserving of minutes. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. And they've got a few expiring contracts which can be played around with as well. The Spurs, they've got Jimmy Butler, they've got Victor Wembanyama, they've got the #1 pick in Junior Justice. They've also got Tyler Hero, and they've re-signed some of their core guys. Probably going to be sign and trade candidates because they do have a lot of draft picks, and they will be looking to improve as the offseason goes on. So we just got to keep an eye on the Spurs. The Suns are probably going to blow it up, I dare say. I don't really like their championship odds. They don't have a lot of money to play with, and they don't have any of their picks. So I think the Suns are definitely going to be blow it up candidates. So don't be surprised if there is a big deal or two to be made. OKC, as I mentioned on the Detroit Pistons section of the video, they traded up into the draft to pick up AJ Dunston, who is a 6'5" paint beast as a center. Chet's going to be playing the 4 now, and J-Dub is going to be playing at the 3. I think if they can secure a nice starting 2 guard, they're going to be well off going into next season, they're going to be a championship contender, and they still have a ton of draft picks to be made. The Timberwolves are in a bit of an interesting position. Do we follow the path of real life by trading Karl-Anthony Towns? What do we do with Rudy Gobert? He's only got a player option for next year worth 40 odd million. That could be, a nice trade piece. And we don't have a lot of draft picks is the only thing. Obviously, we keep Anthony Edwards. We're not going to do anything too stupid, but it just remains to be seen. Now on to the Portland Trailblazers. And as you can see, they've already got a pretty full roster. Guys like Malcolm Brogdon and Tim Hardaway Jr., we're probably going to find homes for. Bojan Bogdanovic, also an expiring contract. They already have a ton of forwards. So, we're probably going to need another point guard. Definitely another, shooting guard. Just more guards, just generally speaking. And then we'll make some deals. I think we've still got a fair amount of draft picks as well. So I dare say we'll just probably flip them for one big kind of contract. Golden State did a really good job in the draft. They picked up, actually this deal was made before the draft. Kawhi Leonard is now a member of the Golden State Warriors. I think if we can bring back Klay Thompson, that'll be awesome. If not, we'll find somebody else to play shooting guard. I dare say it'll be Pods. But if not, we'll just do whatever we can to get the deal done. But Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, a very interesting sort of core going forward. The Wizards don't have a lot of talent on the roster right now. They have a ton of draft picks after trading away a lot of their pieces. But they've still got Kuzma, they've still got Jordan Poole. Koulibaly is bound to make his next step this season. And they drafted Toby Trapp, who is a 6'8" point guard out of Australia. We'll see how that plays out. And now we've got all of the expansion teams, who a lot of which I don't think will do too many drastic moves unless there's like a really big trade to be made. Obviously, a lot of them do have a lot of cap space, but I doubt that any of them will make a great deal of moves. The Sonics, I don't actually think I'll do anything except release that guy because their roster is already full. So good for the Sonics, but the Vancouver Kodiaks will obviously make a few fringe signings, but unless there's somebody out there that's willing to join, I don't think we'll do anything too drastic. Las Vegas Venom could be a LeBron James destination. He has spoken very frequently about wanting to own a team in Las Vegas, and he could play for this team in Las Vegas before his retirement and then eventually becoming a team owner. So they would obviously have to work out a deal with, obviously LeBron's a free agent, but also working out a deal with the Cavs to get Bronny. So I believe they have all their picks. If not, we can definitely work something out as they do have a ton of young assets. The San Diego Wildcats are in a pretty good position. Their roster is basically full. They just need another center in their set. They did flog a whole bunch of their draft picks to get DeJounte Murray, which in hindsight, I don't know how wise that was, but a lot of them were protected. So if they, blow out this year or flame out this year, I think they're going to be fine in the long run. But they definitely need another guy to put them in a playoff position. The Austin Bullets, very interesting to see how they will go. They lack guards, basically, and they still have all their draft picks. So trades could be made, but I don't know where this is going to go. Remains to be seen. And then last but not least, we have the Cincinnati Royals. Basically a full roster, just a few missing spots here and there. They have all their draft picks. I doubt they're going to do anything too drastic, as they'll probably want to be bad for next season. Just before we do any trades in the early stages of free agency, obviously we skipped the moratorium to do all those other signings that I needed to do, but I'll just give you a quick look at some of the free agents that are in this year's class. We have LeBron James, Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, Siakam, Tyrese Maxey, who's restricted. I dare say he'll go back to Philadelphia unless they're stupid. Drew Holiday, James Harden, Jonas Valanciunas, Nicholas Claxton, Emmanuel Quickley, OG Anunoby, Klay Thompson. So a lot of older guys, but still a lot of quality talent out there to be signed. It'll be very interesting to see how each team plays out. I am going to go over each team now. I know I sort of just went over their rosters, but I'm going to do sort of in team order, in a way, sort of any trades that need to be done before free agency, and then we'll get into the good stuff. So bear with me. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, first deal before free agency. We've got the Bucks, the Sixers, and the Mavericks. I initially wasn't going to do a deal with the Sixers as the main lead team of the trade, but Bucks are next chronologically and, well, not chronologically, alphabetically, and I decided to engage with the 76ers. We're going to be sending Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis off to the Mavericks in exchange for Dante Exum, Dwight Powell, and 4 second-round picks, all in the future. And then the 76ers are going to take on the contract of Damian Lillard in exchange for 2 swap worst picks there's one in 2026 and one in 2028. I don't expect these picks to be good, and the 76ers, there's incentive for them to, be okay because they don't actually have any of their picks. Although they do have some decent picks in the future. Those picks will probably be used in the trade, and Damian Lillard, Milwaukee has no use for him. They've got 2 other point guards, which they want him to get minutes into. And Milwaukee are just looking to clear a bit of cap space. Philadelphia have a ton of space, so they are happy to eat the Damian Lillard contract. So we're going to put this deal through, and Dallas get a little bit better. The Bucks take on some more assets, and Philadelphia are going to try and keep Tyrese Maxey in town somehow. Okay, new deal here. Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, Utah Jazz are the teams involved. Nikola Vucevic, Alex Caruso going to the Miami Heat via the Bulls. Zach LaVine and a 2028 unprotected first going to the Jazz. Larry Nance Jr. and Chicago's 2025 top 10 protected 2025 top 10 protected first round pick going back to the Bulls. And then Colin Sexton is going from the Jazz to the Bulls. The Jazz are just loading up on draft picks at this point. They're getting another first from the Bulls in exchange for, as well as Zach LaVine, I should say, for giving up Colin Sexton. Caruso and Vucevic are moving on to the Heat, and then the Bulls get their own pick back, as well as a young guard in Colin Sexton and an expiring contract in Larry Nance Jr. This trade goes through. We have now got a major trade involving a former MVP, a few All-NBA players as well. It's a 3-teamer. You know I love a 3-teamer. We've got Atlanta, New York, and Phoenix. Atlanta is sending Bogdan Bogdanovic to the New York Knicks. Davion Mitchell and Kobe Bufkin to the Suns. A San Diego 2026 lottery-protected first to the Suns. And 2 2025 second-rounders to the Suns. Julius Randle from the Knicks going to the Suns. Mitchell Robinson and Yusuf Nurkic going to Atlanta. And then 3 additional firsts from the Knicks going to the Suns with their 2025 Brooklyn unprotected second-round pick. Also going to the Suns for Kevin Durant, who's headed off to New York. He's played for Brooklyn before, but now he's going to the Garden. Welcome to New York, Kevin Durant. We now have the Charlotte Hornets in a 3-teamer with the Washington Wizards and the Golden State Warriors. 2 2027 first-round picks, Nick Smith Jr., Cody Martin, and Nick Richards, all going to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole. The Wizards not afraid to trade away some of their better players. They're rebuilding at the moment. They're going to take on some younger talent in Nick Smith Jr. and Nick Richards. Cody Martin, obviously a little bit older, but they're going to get a couple of draft picks in return. Seth Curry, also from the Hornets, going to join his brother in Golden State in return for a second-round pick, which is headed to the Wizards as part of the deal. I like the deal for all teams. Let's keep cracking. The Lakers are now making a little bit of an unusual trade here. They're going to be sending Austin Reeves and Jalen Hood-Schifino to the Utah Jazz in exchange for their own 2027 first-round pick. I think what the Lakers are doing here, they're just loading up on their own first-round picks, trying to get those picks back, just in case LeBron James leaves in free agency. So they're also clearing up a little bit of cap room. The Jazz looking to get some more quality players. Obviously, Jalen Hood-Schifino's only had the one NBA season, and Austin Reeves has improved every single year he's been on an NBA roster, and I think they're going to fit in just fine in Utah. Pretty straightforward deal for the Lakers, and the Jazz get a little bit better. The Lakers have found a way to satisfy all parties as a part of this deal. They're going to be sending Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt to the Pelicans in exchange for their 2025 first round pick, which was sent to the Pelicans originally as part of the Anthony Davis trade. CJ McCollum, to make the money work, is going to go from the Pelicans to the San Diego Wildcats. And then the Wildcats are going to be sending Jaden Hardy and then 2 second-round picks to the Pelicans in exchange for McCollum and his leadership. This deal is now done. We've got another 3-teamer. I am loving this offseason so far. The Magic are looking to change things up a little bit. They're going to go after Karl Anthony Towns. They're going to send Franz Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, and 4 first-round picks, one of which is a 2025 Denver top 5 protected pick, a 2026 Phoenix pick swap with Orlando, and then 2027-2028 Orlando unprotected. Then, obviously, Karl Anthony Towns goes to Orlando, and then the Brooklyn Nets are going to be sending Dennis Schroeder, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Dariq Whitehead to Minnesota as a part of this deal, as well to clear up a bit of cap space. They're going to get a second-round pick in return. I think this is a very interesting deal for all teams. Minnesota gets a little bit worse, but also gets a little bit better at the same time by getting a ton of assets. The Magic get a bit more star power, and they even get a little bit more cap space as well. And then the Nets, what are they doing? Remains to be seen. Let's put this deal through. Let's keep going. Another deal here with the Denver Nuggets looking to maximize the top end of their roster and to simultaneously kind of build for the future. It's sort of like a double sign-in trade because Christian Brown, Peyton Watson were both free agents. They're all going to be going to Milwaukee along with Zeke Naji, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, and Hunter Tyson. Cam Johnson, who has gone from the Nets to the Bucks, he's now off to the Nuggets. Then 4 second rounders from the Bucks are going to the Timberwolves, and they are going to send a 2025 Denver pick back to Denver. So this deal, all going to get done here. Very happy with this deal. The Bucks, Timberwolves, Nuggets get the deal done. We got another blockbuster trade here. Even before free agency, stuff is getting done. Jalen Green, Tyrese, and Cam Whitmore, and 2 second-round picks are heading to the Memphis Grizzlies from Houston. Steven Adams via Houston is heading to Phoenix. Then Marcus Smart, along with 5 protected first-round picks, heading to Phoenix. Devin Booker, the Suns are continuing to blow it up. He's off to Houston, and they are also sending San Diego's 2026 lottery protected first to the Memphis Grizzlies to get this deal done. So the Memphis Grizzlies still do have some picks towards the future. This is going to be a very interesting team as Memphis. They've already got a very good core, but they're adding some more young pieces. I think they're going to be very dangerous in the future. Phoenix are just getting a ton of assets. They've got Steven Adams, who's an expiring contract, can play some center for them. And Houston in the West, going to be pretty deadly as well. Let's put the trade through. There shouldn't be too many more trades to do before we get to free agency. Feels a bit sad that we don't have a 3-teamer this time. Just the 2 teams on this trade. We're going to be sending from the San Antonio Spurs, Jeremy Sohan, Zach Collins, and Malachi Branham off to the Timberwolves in exchange for Jaden McDaniels and Jonathan Isaac. No picks involved, just a simple swap of players. I think the Timberwolves are saving a bit of money here, and the Spurs adding a bit of talent. Timberwolves also getting a little bit younger with Malachi Branham and Jeremy Sohan. The Timberwolves will have a few decisions to make as well towards the end of free agency. They've obviously got Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley's getting older, and they've got a lot of expiring contracts, but they do also have some picks. So it could be remain to be seen. That might be a mid-season trade, depending on what they want to do. But anyway, let's put this deal through. Shouldn't be too many left. Another sign and trade here, this time with the OKC Thunder, sending Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, a Miami 2025 lottery protected first, and then 2 second-round picks this year to the New Orleans Pelicans in exchange for Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels, heading to the Thunder. Good deal for both teams. Another deal done. The Blazers are going to be sending 3 expiring contracts, 3 second-round picks off to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for the Bradley Beal contract and a swap worst pick in 2028. Malcolm Brogdon, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Bojan Bogdanovic are those expiring contracts. Bradley Beal just going to provide a little bit of experience to this young Blazers team, and the Suns just trying to get off the Bradley Beal money to head into free agency next year, giving up a pretty bad future first round pick, getting some seconds in return. Pretty good deal for both teams. Another deal done. And with that, all of those trades are now done. It is time to get into free agency. I don't know how many trades we did in the end, but we're going to count them out. If you just want to have a look on screen, you're more than welcome to pause just to read over everything. But there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 trades we did in the end. What a result. And now it is time for the free agency extravaganza. As we displayed earlier in the video, here below is the list of free agents. There are plenty of good players to be signed. We're going to do sort of club by club, see what each club is going to do with their business. I'm obviously not going to show you every single player down on this list because there are about 400 players on free agency. Not all of them will be signed, obviously, but there are some biggies. If we head towards the top of the list, we can see that LeBron James, who's 39 years old, is up. Tyrese Maxey, who is a restricted free agent, will likely go back to Philadelphia, assuming offers come from elsewhere. But there's Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam, Drew Holiday, James Harden. A lot of quality players to be signed. If we head into the first day of free agency, we can see that Paul George has signed a 3-year, $188 million deal with the Philadelphia 76ers. We will also look at some of the offers that were made at other players such as Pascal Siakam, DeMar DeRozan. The qualifying offer has been offered to Tyrese Maxey. They obviously have a lot of cap space, but they are going to try and use that cap space before signing Tyrese Maxey. No other club has gone in for Tyrese Maxey just yet, but that may change in the future. Nicholas Claxton has signed a 3-year, $121 million deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. A big loss for the Brooklyn Nets, as obviously they did trade for Joel Embiid in the offseason, so it was likely that they weren't going to re-sign Nicholas Claxton. And the Bucks, they didn't make any other offers. They only had one roster spot available, which was at center. They have a ton of cap space still, so if they want to make a trade later into the season with all their draft picks, they are more than welcome to do so. But they filled a need. They've got a new starting center. The Bulls have been very busy in free agency, re-signing Patrick Williams, 5 years, $137.5 million. And James Harden, who's going to be returning to the two-guard position, he is signed for 2 years, $78 million, meaning that we will have to renounce the bird rights of DeMar DeRozan to get this deal done. Lonzo Ball, his cap hold is still here, but an offer has not been made to Lonzo Ball at this stage. I don't think the Bulls will bring him back just due to his injury concerns. An offer was also made for Isaac Okoro, but that is currently being mulled over by himself. The Celtics did everything that they needed to do in the first day of free agency. They brought back Drew Holiday and they re-signed Sam Hauser to a 5-year, $72 million deal. Drew Holiday's was a 1-year deal with a team option. Drew Holiday actually turned down a couple of really big offers from the Austin Bullets and the Miami Heat to return to the Celtics. Obviously, they won the championship last year, and he's happy to stay. And they obviously have a team-friendly option for next year. Luke Cornett is also in the process of being brought back for the minimum, but he is currently mulling over that offer. The Clippers are big losers in free agency so far. James Harden is gone, as is Paul George. They weren't able to work them into a sign and trade. As we can see, they did accept offers from elsewhere. Mason Plumlee is looking to be brought back for the minimum, but he has not accepted just yet. Markelle Fultz and Robert Covington have found new homes here on the Memphis Grizzlies. Markelle Fultz signing a 2-year deal worth $19.5 million with a team option for a 3rd year. Robert Covington just signs the minimum, and they're also going after Patrick Beverley, but he is currently mulling over that offer. They still have the cap hold on Luke Kennard, so they can choose to bring him back, but whether or not he wants to come back remains to be seen. Bruce Brown and Najee Marshall have signed with the Atlanta Hawks. Bruce Brown, 2 years, $25 million deal with a team option for a 3rd year. He only had the one offer, which was a little bit surprising considering he is a quality backup point guard. And Najee Marshall just signed for the minimum. They did make a play at Luke Kennard, but he has accepted another offer. So turns out he's not going back to the Grizzlies. And Saddiq Bey is currently sitting on a qualifying offer from the Hawks. Miami swung for the fences in free agency and missed entirely. Patrick Williams, Drew Holiday, Tobias Harris all have accepted other offers. Unfortunately, not going to be able to spend any of their $25 million in cap space on these guys. Over to the Sacramento Kings now, and Malik Monk has signed a 5-year, $112 million contract. Cam Payne has also signed as their backup point guard for the minimum. They also tried to go over Kelly Oubre with a 1-year, $5 million deal, but he has signed elsewhere, unfortunately, for the Kings. Along with the LA Clippers, you could argue that the New York Knicks are also big losers in free agency. Both OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein have signed offers elsewhere. They offered them big contracts, and they also offered a deal to Russell Westbrook, but he has signed elsewhere as well. 4 years, $179 with a team option for OG Anunoby. He has turned that down, and Isaiah Hartenstein, 5 years, $135, has also turned that down. This is where free agency gets interesting. LeBron James has left the Los Angeles Lakers. He rejected their 1-year proposal for 1 year, $55 million with a player option for next year. Nicholas Claxton also turned them down. He went home to the Bucks, and Malik Monk obviously re-signed with the Kings. They currently have a cap hold on D'Angelo Russell, so whether or not they choose to bring him back, that remains to be seen. But they currently don't have a point guard, and power forward is very vacant, so not great time to be a Lakers fan. Kyle Lowry now has a new home in Orlando, operating as their backup point guard, signed for the minimum. Very happy to bring some championship experience here to Orlando. And if we look at some of the offers they made, DeAndre Jordan has rejected that deal. Tobias Harris also rejected the 4-year, $55 million deal to be a backup to Paolo Banchero. Now we know what the Nets have been up to this entire offseason. They are creating a big three. LeBron James has left Los Angeles. He's heading to Brooklyn. 3 years, $188 million deal with a no-trade clause. They offered deals to Paul George and DeMar DeRozan should LeBron James not have worked, but they got their main man. They now have currently a starting 4 of Cam Thomas, LeBron James, Giannis, and Joel Embiid. I think the Nets are going to try and get Bronny at some point in this video, but what an offseason for the Nets. They have no assets left. They have a couple of second rounders that they can flick to the Cavs for Bronny, but what a transformational offseason for the Nets if it all works. Lonzo Ball has found a new home. He has left Chicago, who didn't offer him a deal, and he is signed to be the backup point guard to Jamal Murray. 3 years, $15 million over the course of those 3 years. I think this is the perfect environment for Lonzo Ball. He's a smart basketballer, so he's going to work really well with Jokic. And I think if they can also bring back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I know they've put an offer in for him of 3 years, $57 million. They also had a crack at DeAnthony Melton, but he has chosen to sign elsewhere. But if they can also get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope back, this will be a really strong offseason for the Denver Nuggets. The Indiana Pacers, not really known for splashing the cash, but they have done so in this offseason. Obi Toppin re-signing 3 years, $99 million with a team option for a 4th year. There was an offer made for him, but that has now been matched. Pascal Siakam, 5 years, $295, has been offered the max, and he is re-signed with the Pacers. And Jalen Smith, 1 year, $30 million with a team option for next year. I don't think they made any other offers. They made an offer to bring back James Johnson. Crucial. The Pacers did a really good job bringing everybody back. Successful offseason so far. The Pelicans attempted to bring in some new shooting talent in Gary Trent Jr., but he has accepted an offer from elsewhere, as well as Jonas Valanciunas not re-signing with the team after accepting another offer. But they have brought back Eric Gordon, who back in the day did play for the Pelicans. He played for them even when they were back as the Hornets. He was a part of the Chris Paul trade back in the day. So he is signed for a minimum deal, just going to play some backup shooting guard minutes behind Herb Jones. I forgot his name for a second. But that is a good deal for the Pelicans, but they've still got a little bit of money, hopefully, that they'll be able to throw around. So this is where OG Anunoby has landed. 4 years, $187 million via the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons also made an offer for Miles Bridges as a backup, but OG Anunoby has signed first. So that is a really good addition for the Pistons. I dare say he's going to be playing a bit of power forward for the Pistons, not so much small forward, but a great deal for the Pistons. James Wiseman is on the qualifying offer, but we won't be able to sign him now that we've got OG Anunoby, so we'll have to renounce his rights. Minor signing here, Ricky Rubio has signed to be a backup point guard behind Trae Young, just signing for the minimum, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun. He's retired in real life, so this will probably be his last season as an NBA player, but I just wanted to add him to a team, and we've made an offer for Boban, so I think that'll be fun as well. DeAnthony Melton has chosen to sign with the San Antonio Spurs. 2 years, $15 million, playing up some backup too. I think he's going to be a good player, can shoot the ball. If we have a look at his statistics from last season, he was a little bit down on the field goal percentage, but his three ball has been pretty consistent over the course of his career, and I think he's going to bring some excellent talent to the Spurs. DeAndre Jordan, still collecting those checks, has signed with the Phoenix Suns. Not much to go over here. He has left the Denver Nuggets, and he's found a home in Phoenix. The OKC Thunder just keep getting better and better. They've brought back Russell Westbrook to the Thunder just on a minimum deal, and Kevin Love, his college teammate, has been brought in as well. He rejected a couple offers. You know, he had a couple of very good offers, if I remember. Actually, he only had one offer from the Thunder. That seems like a mistake. But anyway, Kelly Oubre also gets signed. 4 years, $50 million using their mid-level exception, I believe. So he's going to be probably a backup to Jay Williams. And the Thunder, again, getting stronger and stronger. Klay Thompson has re-signed with the Warriors. The captain has re-signed 3 years, $57 million with a team option for a 4th year. They also put an offer in for Tobias Harris, but they won't make that deal now because it was just a backup. They didn't have the cap space. They only made an offer just in case Klay Thompson's offer didn't go through, basically. Very good job just re-signing Klay Thompson, and now we don't have to worry about Tobias Harris. So Tobias Harris is back on the market. The Vancouver Kodiaks have struck big this free agency, signing Luke Kennard, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Gary Trent Jr. to long-term deals. Luke Kennard signed 3 years, $58 million. Isaiah Hartenstein ditched the Knicks, 4 years, $150, and Gary Trent Jr. has left the Raptors to sign 4 years, $130 million. Excellent roster construction by the Grizzlies, not the Grizzlies, the Vancouver Kodiaks. I think they have all their picks as well, so it's going to be a very interesting season for them coming up. DeMar DeRozan has signed for the Las Vegas Venom. He is their first marquee signing. They also went after LeBron James and Paul George, as did the Nets. But DeMar DeRozan, 3 years, $187 with a team option on the 4th year as he becomes 38 years old. But an excellent signing for the Venom, and DeMar DeRozan is out of Chicago. The San Diego Wildcats have now signed their new starting center. They've got Jonas Valanciunas, 3 years, $110 million, and that is their roster done. They've got all 15 players, and they've got a bit of cap space for next season as well. So they've got CJ McCollum, they've got Dejounte Murray, and now they've got Jonas Valanciunas. They may be a sneaky play-in team, but we'll wait and see how the rest of their season plays out. The Austin Bullets went big in free agency. They attempted to sign James Harden and Drew Holiday. They offered them identical deals, but unfortunately couldn't get either of them. And as a consolation prize, they ended up with Alec Burks. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's what happened. Now that LeBron James has signed with the Brooklyn Nets, this is what their roster is currently look like. They're probably going to have to sign all minimum guys from here on out, but what a start to the series for the Brooklyn Nets. I was going to say start to the offseason. They started the offseason with a bang, getting Embiid and Giannis, and it's gotten better by signing LeBron in free agency. Now, they've got to try and get Bronny from the Cavs. They do have some picks that they can send. I think they have 4 second rounders. So for the 20th overall pick, I'd say that's probably a fair deal. But there's another storyline lingering at this point in time. What the hell does this mean for Anthony Davis? Is Anthony Davis now up for trade? There are a few teams that are interested. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with the remainder of free agency. But there are teams still with cap space, and Anthony Davis, if the Lakers can't get any quality talent, might be out the door. And here is the deal that I was talking about. 4 second rounders. There's 2 in 2025, 1 in 26, 1 in 28 from the Brooklyn Nets off to Cleveland in exchange for Bronny James, who was drafted in the first round of the draft. So we're going to put this deal through, and the Cavs have agreed, and now the Brooklyn Nets at least have a starting 5. They have no bench to speak of, and they have about $1 million in cap space. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I believe they still have their mid-level exception, so at least they have that as well. But the rest of the offseason is about to get interesting. After reviewing the current options that are available in free agency, the Lakers have decided, yep, we're just going to blow it up and wait for the next unhappy superstar to come along and get as many assets as we possibly can. Davis is off to the Philadelphia 76ers. The Phoenix Suns are also involved. It's a 3-teamer. The 76ers are going to get Anthony Davis from the Lakers. The Lakers are going to send 3 second rounders to the Phoenix Suns. The 76ers are going to then send Phoenix's own 2027 first round pick unprotected back to Phoenix. And then the Lakers are going to require 4 unprotected firsts plus 1 top 5 protected first via Toronto in 2025 from the 76ers. And then the Suns, in exchange for getting their own pick back and some seconds, are going to send 2 heavily protected firsts to the Lakers via Memphis. Great deal for everybody. The Suns now have an incentive to tank and get their own pick back. The Lakers get 7 firsts for Anthony Davis. And the 76ers, having lost Joel Embiid in free agency, have bounced right back with this deal. Second day of free agency has come and gone, and the Philadelphia 76ers are going to try and pull something slick here. Buddy Hield was on the Sixers last season, and I did renounce his cap rights, but it does appear that his cap is still being applied. So we've offered Tyrese Maxey a 5-year max deal. We've also signed Buddy Hield to about a little bit north of $20 million a season. So we're going to try and get that to go through. The Cavs have been presented with an option here. We can either accept or match the team that has made a bid on Isaac Okoro, or we can sign Grayson Allen with the cap space that we do have. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with Grayson Allen, even though he's 5 years older and a bit more expensive. He is the better shooter, better defender. Isaac Okoro obviously has the more potential, but I think Grayson Allen wants to join the Cavs. It's the championship window. The Cavs are going to make this deal go through. As mentioned before, Mason Plumlee has signed his minimum deal with the Clippers. The Clippers also made bids for D'Angelo Russell, Tobias Harris, and Buddy Hield, all over $100 million, but they have accepted elsewhere. I cannot think of more of a perfect fit than Patrick Beverley and the Memphis Grizzlies. He is going to be serving as one of the backup point guards. He is one of the most gritty defenders to have ever played in the NBA, and he is a serial pest, just like the Memphis Grizzlies. Instead of offering the qualifying offer to Saddiq Bey, the Atlanta Hawks have decided to extend him a 5-year, $67.5 million contract. It is roughly about the same as the qualifying offer, just matched out over the course of 5 years. And with that business, the Atlanta Hawks are now done in free agency. The Miami Heat have the option of either signing Tobias Harris, Miles Bridges, or Isaac Okoro. I think in this instance, we're going to go with Isaac Okoro. He is the young prospect. Miami are currently rebuilding. And I think Miles Bridges and Tobias Harris can be better served on other teams. And Isaac Okoro sort of fits within the sort of the 3-and-D wing Heat culture vibe that Miami is giving off right now. Luke Cornett is leaving the Celtics. He is off to Utah. 1 year, $12.5 million deal. The Jazz need a center to sit behind Walker Kessler, and I think Luke Kornet can do that job, and they've got a ton of money to spend, so we may as well spend it on Luke Kornet. With LeBron and Anthony Davis leaving the Lakers need to sign somebody, and they've signed up D'Angelo Russell on a 1 year, $51 million deal. It's a team option for next year. They wanted to secure his rights. They did have bird rights, but they have a ton of cap space, and they just wanted to make sure they didn't lose completely everybody. And if we have a look at some of the offers that were made to D'Angelo Russell, they managed to outdo him. So that was very handy. And they've also picked up James Wiseman as sort of the Anthony Davis replacement, I suppose we're going to call him. He signed to a 2 year, $48 million deal with a team option for a third year. Precious Achiuwa has signed with the Orlando Magic to play back up to Paolo Banchero. 4 years, $54.8 million deal. The Nuggets are starting to fill out the rest of their roster. They've picked up KCP. They've re-signed him on a 3 year, $57 million deal. They've also brought back Gary Harris and Gary Payton II. And I think the Nuggets are headed in the right direction. They've still got a bit of work to do if they want to stay in the championship window. But I think that'll be, either a mid-season trade or potentially even next offseason. The Pacers are adding a little bit more talent to their roster. They've got James Johnson, Delano Banton, and Jared Butler signing up. With some of the other moves that they have made, I mean, the Pacers has spent a lot of money this summer. So I doubt they'll do too much more. If so, it'll be very minimal moves. The Pelicans have signed Drew Eubanks to a 2 year deal, as with JD Davison, who previously played for the Boston Celtics, if I'm not mistaken. He is signed for a 2 year, just over a minimum deal. They needed a third point guard and another center. And I believe there's one other deal in the wings for the Pelicans coming up. Couple of big deals here. We've got Emmanuel Quickley re-signing with the Toronto Raptors for 5 years, $232 million. Ochai Agbaji also re-signs 5 years, $83 million. And then Jalen Noel, as a backup point guard, signs a 1 year, $5 million deal. Tyus Jones is returning to his home city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is signed for a 4 year, $53.75 million deal. We tried to get him on the Spurs. If we have a look at his offers, but didn't quite work out, unfortunately. So he is going to be probably the starting point guard over Mike Conley. Mike Conley might move to a bench role now, but very good deal for Tyus Jones and the Timberwolves. The Venom have added a couple more players. Mo Bamba, 1 year, $20 million to play as their starting center. He had a good year off the bench last year for Philadelphia, and the Venom just outbid a couple of teams were in for, they outbid the 76ers by 19 million. So that was probably not necessary, or 18 million, I should say. They also picked up Jordan Nwora for 3 years, $26 million, who has had a very good career so far. No other offers for him at this stage, but he's going to add to the depth at power forward. Last couple of offers of day 2, Andre Drummond and Jackson Hayes have signed with the Cincinnati Royals. Andre Drummond, 1 year, $8 million. Jackson Hayes, 2 years, $16 million. I'm not sure who's going to be the starting center for the Royals. Might be a sort of a duel between these two. But the Royals have done their business. They haven't spent all their money, but they've got all their draft picks. So it might be a destination for the future. We're into day 3 of free agency, and we're only going to cover the major signings from now on, because I really don't need to show you that Spencer Dinwiddie signed with the Philadelphia 76ers for the minimum. So major signings only from here on out. Tobias Harris, 4 years, $122 to the Chicago Bulls. Feels the need for them at power forward. They've obviously got Patrick Williams, but I dare say he could shift over to the 3, or Tobias Harris could even shift over to the 3 as well. Hamidou Diallo, 3 years, $31.5 million. And Ulrich Chomchi, who was a player that got drafted. I can't remember who exactly drafted him, but didn't get signed, is now signed to a 2 year deal with the Chicago Bulls. I'm glad he's found a home. On the Knicks now, and Kyle Anderson has signed a 2 year deal to join the New York Knicks along with Christian Koloko and Frankie Smokes, who's back in New York. Frankie Nicotine, of course, I'm talking about Frank Ntilikina. Dalen Terry has signed a 4-year, $54 million deal with the Orlando Magic. He's going to shore up the shooting guard position for the Magic. They've still got a bit of work to do on their roster, but I think they'll be just fine. They're slowly becoming a championship contender in the East. Although not significant in the traditional sense, I just wanted to show off these signings just because I think they're funny. Thanasis Antetokounmpo has joined his brother Giannis in Brooklyn, signing for the minimum, along with Danny Green and Jeff Green, 2 former teammates of LeBron James. He's keeping them employed. Again, not really significant in terms of impact, but they need to get guys on the roster because they barely have anybody right now. Now over to the Rockets. We were originally going to go with either Derrick Jones or Jayshawn Tate with the mid-level exception. We've decided to go with Derrick Jones Jr. as well as Joe Harris, filling up the small forward positions here on their roster. We just need a couple more players on the Rockets and they are set for the season. We've been trying forever to get someone to sign with the Wizards, and it finally happened. Miles Bridges is out of Charlotte. He's getting a new clean start in Washington. 3 years, $121.5 million, and he is their first power forward on the roster. We've been trying for ages to get one, and they finally have one here today. After failing to sign a contract with the Rockets, Jayshawn Tate has now signed a contract, 4 years, $21.5 million with the Philadelphia 76ers. Rashawn Holmes and Goga Bitadze has also signed on minimum deals. Next to join the Brooklyn Nets is JaVale McGee and Bol Bol. Bol Bol has been signed using the mid-level exception, 4 years, $34.19 million. He's going to take a bit more responsibility after having a couple of good seasons with Phoenix. It is now time for the Bol Bol show to begin. Washington is starting to gain a little bit of momentum. Cedi Osman, TJ Warren, and Marjan Beauchamp signing contracts, 1-year deals, but the big fish here is Ousmane Dieng, who didn't sign a contract extension with the Thunder, signed for 4 years, $107 million. I think that Wizards are betting on potential here, and he's going to play between the 3 and the 4. The Wizards have plenty of time to be good and bad. Really remains to be seen which way it's going to go, so I'm not surprised they splashed big here. Now that free agency is done, it is time to look at player progression and look at the final rosters for the start of the brand new season. We'll start with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I love the roster that they've put together over the course of free agency and the trade period, as well as the draft. They picked up Anthony Davis, Tyrese Maxey has developed really nicely. Paul George was a free agent signing. They got Damian Lillard via trade. Buddy Hield, they re-signed, and they did very well to pick up, where is he, Zach Edey, as their draft pick. They did a very good job. They didn't even have to trade that pick. He was just there, fell into our lap, and he did a very good job. The Bucks have had a lot of fluctuation and movement over the course of the offseason. A lot of turnover. Guys like Giannis, Chris Middleton no longer around, and they've had to, really make a few deals to get this roster together. But it's going to be a tough season. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the next couple of years look like for the Bucks, because they're not a big market at all, but they're able to attract Nicholas Claxton to Milwaukee after he was, kicked out of Brooklyn, basically. And they signed him to a nice long contract for 3 years. So it'll be interesting to see how their sort of future plays out, but I'm definitely excited for it. Chicago began to kickstart the rebuild by also adding some veteran talent. They brought back Derrick Rose. They added James Harden in free agency to mentor some of the younger guards that they do have. But Kobe White, Colin Sexton, they got via trade when they sent Zach LaVine to Utah. Patrick Williams, they're able to re-sign him. And they even drafted a young Rob Dillingham, who's going to be, I don't know, I doubt he'll be a starting point guard for us. Or not, when I say us, I mean for Chicago, because I'm not controlling anybody. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. He might be sort of a 6th man, sort of 8th man type of player. Cavs did everything that they wanted to do this offseason. They brought in Grayson Allen. They shipped out a couple of players who weren't worthy of a roster spot. Unfortunately, they did lose Isaac Okoro in restricted free agency, but they brought in Grayson Allen as sort of a de facto replacement. There are a few players' contracts that are up for renewal, such as Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, and Jared Allen, and that is something that we will do in the next episode, is contract extensions. Boston did its best to strengthen its championship core, and I feel like they did that. A lot of development from their two core guys, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But they also got a bit better. Peyton Pritchard got better. Sam Hauser re-signed as a free agent. They even picked up Denny Avdia in a trade with the Washington Wizards, where they did sacrifice 3 future first-round picks. But I feel like it's a worthy addition to extending their bench, especially once Al Horford retires. The Clippers, they traded away Kawhi Leonard. They lost Paul George and James Harden in free agency, but they've certainly done their best to patch together a roster that's ultimately going to be surrounding Jonathan Kuminga and Ivica Zubac in, especially this season. They've got Chris Paul as well. Brought him back to Los Angeles, where I dare say he will retire at season's end, but you never know. The Grizzlies also got a lot better, adding the likes of Jaylen Brown, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore. They did give up a ton to do that, but I think they've done a good job. The only question remains is what's going to happen with Desmond Bane, whether or not he starts at 3 or not, and we have Cam Whitmore come off the bench. Because I've moved Gigi Jackson to the 4, and that way we can get him and Jaren Jackson both in the starting lineup. Not really sure how that's going to work out, but I think that's a problem for a later date. The Atlanta Hawks traded away Trae Young, traded away a few other sort of depreciating assets, and they've gotten a lot younger. Onyeka Okongwu, Jalen Johnson got better, but it's all about the draft picks with these guys. They're going to be relying on the draft in the future. Fred VanVleet's on the final year of his deal. Mitch Robinson got worse, and Yusuf Nurkic has still got a few years left on that deal. They did bring back Sadiq Bey, so that was a positive, but this is definitely a rebuilding year for the Hawks. We got a lot of improvement, a lot of upward arrows here in Miami, and that is what we like to see. Jaime Jaquez is the best player on the roster, and I would not have thought I would say that before the start of the first season. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, they're all gone. Anthony Simons is going to be starting point guard with Devin Vassell at the starting 2. They've got Vucevic manning the middle, Caruso, Okoro, Jovic. They've got a whole ton of guys who I think are going to be really positive for them, but it is going to be a rebuilding year, I dare say. The Charlotte Hornets did a really good job adding some more pieces around LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. They're obviously still very young. LaMelo's 22, Brandon Miller is 21, Mark Williams is 22, and he signed a contract extension as well this offseason. But Kyle Kuzma, who they brought in, is 29, does have a few years on his deal, will be the starting power forward this year. And Jordan Poole, whether or not he starts or whether he's a sixth man or not, I think that's going to be very interesting going forward. And in the draft, they picked up Donovan Clingan, who I think he might come off the bench and be a good backup for Mark Williams. Utah is doing what Utah does, and that's just collecting a lot of assets. They helped the Lakers out by clearing some cap space by taking on the contract of Austin Reeves, and if I can find him, Jalen Hood-Schifino. They did the same with the Bulls with Zach LaVine, and in turn they're getting more and more draft picks, so hopefully one of these days someone in the draft will just land in their lap and they'll be a contender for years to come, but that day still awaits us. Sacramento also did a very good job securing more talent to hopefully make a further playoff push this season. Domantas Sabonis improved. Keegan Murray also improved. Malik Monk's tied down to a long extension. They picked up DeAndre Hunter and a backup center in Clint Capella. Obviously, Capella's playstyle very different to Sabonis, but I think these are positive moves for the Kings. Just remains to be seen how it plays out for them, as they're not necessarily as deep as some of the other rosters. The Knicks, unfortunately, couldn't re-sign OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein, but they were able to land Kevin Durant in a trade. So depending on which way you look at it, they did have to give up a lot to get him, but it's still a pretty good looking roster when your two best players are Kevin Durant and Jalen Brunson, good things are bound to happen. I think this could be, a 50-win team in the playoffs, but whether or not they make a conference finals or an NBA finals remains to be seen. Out of all the possible teams in the NBA, the Lakers definitely had the worst offseason. They didn't draft anybody, I don't believe. Actually, they did. They drafted Dalton Connect. But LeBron left in free agency. They were able to re-sign D'Angelo Russell and Max Christie, it should be said. But trading away Anthony Davis, they did get a lot for him, but a lot of the picks that they did get aren't of much value. It's more about, in this case, more is less, I suppose, for the Lakers, but they're going to be tanking. They've got all their picks back, fortunately, via trades that they did do in the offseason, but it's going to be a sad season in Los Angeles for the Lakers, at least. I don't know how the Clippers are going to go. The Magic swung for the fences in the offseason, and it looks like it is going to pay off. Paolo Banchero up to a 92 overall. Karl Anthony Towns improved. I think that's going to be a very fun front court for this season at least. Chris Middleton, 32 years of age, still maintaining a really good rating. Jalen Suggs weren't able to get a contract extension done with him in this video. That'll be something we do in the next video. But some really good development out of Anthony Black is required this season for the Magic. Dallas did re-sign some key guys. They did, bring on Jeremy Grant, Brook Lopez, and Bobby Portis via trade. It was very interesting, to see they did bring on a few veterans towards the back end of the roster. But Kyrie Irving, his contract is up at the end of the season. Luka Doncic only has 2 years left. Derek Lively is still very, very good, but the Mavericks are going to want to succeed. Otherwise, there may be a fire sale in the coming years. When I think of teams of how to execute an offseason perfectly, I look no further than the Brooklyn Nets. They signed 3 of the best players in the NBA in Joel Embiid, Giannis, and LeBron James. Cam Thomas got some really good development out of him. They made a shrewd signing in Bol Bol, who's going to be playing backup center behind Giannis this year. And they signed a ton of veterans to support them on the bench. And they also drafted a point guard in the future in Bronny James. Whether or not that pans out or not, I'm not sure. But I like what the Nets have done this offseason. Denver pretty much maintained the course. They did bring in a couple of key signings in Lonzo Ball and Cam Johnson. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was re-signed, but the rest of the roster is basically the same from Cam Johnson up. They did obviously have a couple of youngsters down here. They did draft Jared McCain, which I think will be interesting for them, but I'm really mainly focusing on their top 7. I think the Indiana Pacers spent the most money this offseason. It'll be close between them and the Philadelphia 76ers, but Halliburton got some good development out of him. Siakam signed a $295 million deal. Benedict Mathurin's going to be playing some 3 for us. Obi Toppin signed a new contract. Jarace Walker's going to be moved to the 3. I really like what I'm seeing from the Indiana Pacers. I think they're going to be tough to deal with in the Eastern Conference. New Orleans made some moves this offseason, picking up Bam Adebayo and a couple of other really, really good bench pieces in Cason Wallace, Rui Hashimura, Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe. I'm very excited for what is in store for these guys. They have a couple of picks for the future, but I think with their on-court results, they might be able to... I think there's a trade to be done with this team. Wherever the next unhappy superstar comes from, they've got sort of these mid-contracts here that can sort of be combined together with a couple of picks to get that done. It remains to be seen what that looks like, but the series is still young. Detroit, one of their main successes was trading down in the draft, collecting Josh Giddey, and still ending up with, if I can remember his name, Ron Holland, who was a player that they drafted in real life. They were able to snatch away OG Anunoby away from the Knicks, which I thought was also very, very good. But I think this is still going to be a tough year for the Pistons. I don't think they'll be a playoff team, but they may surprise me. Toronto didn't do anything too drastic this offseason. They brought back everybody that they needed to. They drafted Ryan Dunn, but apart from that, they've still got all their picks. I think this is going to be a very interesting season for the Raptors, as they are no longer the main Canadian team. If the Nets had the best offseason, the Rockets are probably a close second. They made a ton of really positive moves. They got rid of all their draft picks basically, so if this doesn't work, they are in trouble, but I think they're going to be fine. The Spurs are doing everything that they possibly can to build around Wemby, and I think they've done a good job. Wemby's developed up to a 95 overall at just 20 years of age. Jimmy Butler is maintaining. They got Junior Justice, who's the number 1 pick in this year's draft. Tyler Hero, Jalen McDaniels, Jonathan Isaac, Trey Jones. They've got a good bench and a good sort of core. There's a bit to be said, with the second half of the roster, but they have still got plenty of draft picks. There are a few moves to be done. I think they are going to shake things up in the Western Conference. Phoenix have officially hit the reset button. Julius Randle's on a 1-year deal. Marcus Smart on a 2-year deal. They have a ton of expiring contracts. I think this is going to be a team for free agency next year and definitely for the draft. OKC are trying to get closer and closer to an NBA championship, and I think they took strides towards that this offseason. They traded away Josh Giddey and the 13th overall pick to trade up to get AJ Dunston, who's going to be their starting center this year. They're also able to obtain Dyson Daniels, Herb Jones, Aaron Wiggins. Actually, Aaron Wiggins was already here, what I'm talking about. But they also brought back the prodigal son, Russell Westbrook. So really good offseason for the Thunder. I think they topped the West. The Timberwolves had kind of a lateral offseason. They traded away Karl Anthony Towns, but they did get some good pieces back, mainly in the form of draft picks. So I think the roster is actually a little bit worse, but in the grand scheme of things, I think they'll be better for it in the future, getting Karl Anthony Towns' contract off the books. Portland did a good job rebuilding this year. Shaedon Sharpe had the biggest leap out of any player this season with a +9. They're tanking away. They've got Bradley Beal, who's probably going to be coming off the bench for this team, which is quite funny considering how well Shaedon Sharpe has developed. But yeah, this is not a good team. They've got 4 rookies. And I think, this is going to be a really young team who I don't think will win many games, but it's going to be fun to watch. As mentioned in this series so far, the Warriors are making one last crack at the title before everybody retires. They brought everyone back. They brought in Kawhi Leonard. They got rid of Kuminga to do it, but they've still got Pods and Moody, Trace Jackson-Davis. Kevon Looney's still hanging around. Seth Curry's on board. Apart from that top 4, it's a pretty thin roster. But we'll see how the rest of the season will play out. Washington were not in a good place at the start of this save file. I think they're in a little bit better of a place now. Bilal Coulibaly's had some really good development. He's up +7. They drafted Toby Trapp, who's going to be their starting point guard. They signed Ousmane Dieng in free agency, and they're able to get Miles Bridges as well, who's looking for a clean restart away from Charlotte. And now we get into the expansion teams. We've got the Vancouver Kodiaks, who signed up Isaiah Hartenstein, Gary Trent Jr., and Luke Kennard in free agency. They spent big, so I think they've still got their draft pick, so I don't think they'll be a playoff team by any means, but it'll be very interesting to see how their season plays out in their first season in the NBA. Seattle swung big to get Lauri Markkanen in a trade with the Utah Jazz, but they've got a big goal. Make a decent run in the playoffs and re-sign Lauri Markkanen in the offseason because he is on an expiring deal. They also picked up Jose Alvarado and a lot of other guys in the expansion draft. All these people are possibly up for trade because other people's benches are very thin considering we added 6 new teams to the league. So I think a lot of the expansion teams will be doing deals to other teams to bring in draft capital to obviously strengthen their teams, etc. The Las Vegas Venom probably did the most high-profile signing of the expansion teams in signing DeMar DeRozan on a 3-year deal worth $187 million. They've still got their picks. Andrew Nembhard had some really good progression up to an 85 overall away from the Indiana Pacers. I'm surprised they didn't protect him, but I think this is sort of going to be a transitional year. They sort of wanted a high-profile marquee signing in DeMar DeRozan to sort of open the legacy of the Las Vegas Venom. But I think this is just going to be a development year for them. Their roster is fairly young, but DeRozan's going to be leading the way. The San Diego Wildcats probably did the best of all the expansion teams, in my opinion, with just getting guys on board. They're still relatively young. They're not sort of too good in terms of draft picks. They did do, I think they're all those picks are fairly protected, if I remember correctly. Getting DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, and Valanciunas on board. Valanciunas was signed as a free agent, so that's not too bad. But my main concern with McCollum and Valanciunas is that they're both 32. So what that sort of looks like for them in a couple of years from now, when we may not have any draft picks, remains to be seen. But it's going to make a very interesting first season. The Austin Bullets were pretty quiet in free agency, didn't do anything, didn't really do any trades. They're just going to see this season out. I thought they'd be a bit more of a high-profile team, but they're choosing to keep it quiet, and I think they're going to target the draft. I haven't put a draft class together yet, but that is something I will do in the near future. And finally, the Cincinnati Royals took on a very similar approach to the Austin Bullets. Sort of sat tight, kept their draft picks. I think this is sort of going to be a mid-season trade candidate team. Guys like Terry Rozier, Andre Drummond, although he signed here in free agency, will be looking to end up on a contender to possibly win a championship. Dorian Finney-Smith and Duncan Robinson, copy-paste. Same applies there. But that is going to do it for today, guys. The next episode is going to be the Summer League and the rest of the off-season. I'm not going to play too many Summer League games. I dare say I'll only do the final, and then we'll also do a FIBA friendly. And then after that, we will finally get into the new NBA season. But if you have enjoyed today's video, guys, please leave a thumbs up on the video, and please consider subscribing if you are new. And until next time, I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys then. Bye!